Good morning. Come on, Pretzel. Wake up. There we go. All right. Now, for the last minute here of setup, I want to play around with something else. We are going to come on, play around with OBS here. We add a browser to that. All right, there's that. Because I found this. See anything on there I don't want it to have? No, I don't think so. There we go. Let's go to properties here. Let's change the width. The width on this, I think, could be much, much thinner. 300. Okay. Oops. A little too far. It's got to be above the screen capture, below my head. And it's not too bad. But I kind of want it inverted. And maybe scrolled. Get rid of the little top bar. Now let's go back to properties in there. It's not a local file. Let's make it taller. Let's get everything on there. Let's say 1200 tall. I mean, is it just stretching it? It's the part that I want's actually a little bit below this. Oh, there's the SNR. Okay. So we got that. Now let's trim out the top section and the bottom section. Take that off of there. There we go. Bottom. We don't really need the latency bits. But the SNR stuff is nice to see. All right, where should we put this? Can we make it? Could make it a little smaller. Let's go into properties on this again. Let's bump up the width. Let's go back to 600. Could not connect. Okay. But then we'll scale it down. There we go. Something kind of like that. And I'll toss this up over here or something. Yeah, there. It's just there. All right, let's get going. It kind of bugs me that it's over the chat. Let's see. If it's going to be over the chat, let's at least... There, at least cover it. So you'll still see the latest messages. I'll still see more. That should work. Oh, that's a great little find. I like that. And happy Friday, everyone. Happy Friday. Well, hey, good morning. Well, thank you for the raid, White Panther. Oh my goodness, we just got set up, and we tossed the Starlink bits there on the screen. I sense a new presence among us. Oh, and thank you for the follow, y'all. Happy Friday. Wow, this is starting out really quick. I sense a new presence among us. I sense a new presence among us. So what were you doing today? A new presence among us. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you all. Ian Alex Hart, Dr. Dynamite? Oh, tripped up on that one. Dr. Padawan, Finite Singularity. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the follow and happy Friday. Hope you had a good stream. How was everyone today? I sense a new presence among us. Israel NYC, thank you for the follow. How are you? So many doctors. I sense a new presence among us. Now, how do you pronounce this one? Is it Alexley? Thank you. Thank you for the follow. We're about to do some like a scene from Airplane. Sorry. Oh, not a problem. How's everyone doing? So I'm currently working on a serverless system built on top of Cloudflare workers using Rust, macros, and hopefully in the near future, durable objects, their KV store. And today we're actually due to be in kind of the bowels of the beast. And as you can see up here, I am on Starlink. So if something goes wrong, it's better than nothing. So we'll see how it goes. And good morning. Oh goodness, now I really want to check out. Let's see. White Panther. Let me return the favor. Toss a little follow your way. Well, here we go. So, what's important here is to kind of set up the stage. And let's get a little blackboard out here. Got a 100% zoom. Where is it? There it is. Now, so Cloudflare workers, right? You end up with this little tiny VM thing that runs WASM. Now this little WASM bit, is everyone familiar with WASM? Yes, no? But basically there's a ton of these things. They set up some sort of giant virtual machine. Oh, perfect. They set up a giant machine that's running all these little WASM workers. I don't know if the Cloudflare workers are run inside of like a Node.js or inside of some sort of other WebAssembly execution environment. There's a couple that are written in Rust that I know of. There's what is it, WASM time, and oh goodness, what's the other one? Drawing a blank on the other one. But there's WASM time versus WASMer. So there's two of those. So they could be running these WASM bits. Oops. There we go. Give White Panther a follow there. Thank you again for the raid. All right. Oh, you're learning Rust, WASM, and Node.js. Oh, perfect. Okay. So now that we've got this here, come back to our got a little distracted. So a request will come in, and these could be any sorts of things, right? Your WASM script will get executed. Now, you could do the same sort of thing with serverless on AWS, Google Cloud. They don't usually run WASM. You could use WASM time or WASMer to set up this sort of thing inside of Google Cloud or AWS Lambdas. Now, Cloudflare, they just go straight to WASM, which is nice. Or, well, rather, they could run JavaScript or something else too. But in our case, we're just interested in the WASM bits. Now, you could have any sort of like event. Sometimes they're cron events, some other little elements. Other times it's requests, like HTTP request. So you get this sort of a request coming in. Your script gets loaded off of, I don't know how many edge servers Cloudflare has, but how scalable is that, right? Your WASM script on an insane number of machines. You get to handle the event, process it, use any of their other systems like their key value store, their durable objects, which I was able to get into the beta. So we're going to be using that. What else do they have? They've got all sorts of things. And then you just toss the result, right? Say, okay, well, this is it. I've tossed some things into key value stores because somebody posted a new thing on my serverless forum software or my serverless e-commerce software, My serverless website software. 11 billion. That sounds about right. And plus one. 11 billion and one. So we end up with all of these requests coming into a WASM script. Now, the WASM script here, we actually need to be able to identify different kinds of requests. And in a URL, you have, the domain part over here. And then you have, let's say it's a website, right? Or some sort of backend where maybe you're handling some REST events. So you might have like book. Oops, that's terrible. Book / and then whatever the book ID is, right? So we want to be able to parse this, handle it, and return the responses. Now, all right, let's start kind of at the very, very top level. And currently, we've got a workspace in Rust that has 3 crates in it. We've got mimeograph, right? That's kind of like a precursor to the copy machine, a mimeograph. So we're using that name. We've got mimeograph codegen, which is all of our proc macros. Then we've got mimeograph parts, things that mimeograph codegen needs to use in order to be able to, for somebody else to be able to use it, like the mimeograph crate. Now, so those are our top level crates. And if we look at our tests, where's our tests? Here. We're taking inspiration from the Rocket project. So we're creating some proc macros like this and like so. And if you decorate your little function, your router, I guess it's not a router, is it? This is more of the handler. So this handler function would handle this route exactly. And you can see that there are no arguments in here, not like this one, so that you only get the request object here. And your goal is to return a response object. So result, response. And another example here, we have a route with a variable. And in this case, that would be passed in as another argument. And we've got most of this working already. Okay. And then in the main section, you end up creating a router and pass your request in, right? That Cloudflare is going to give you. We actually convert Cloudflare requests into the HTTP crates request. I sense a new presence among us. Oh, thank you for the follow. Goodness, I have to scroll up. August B, thank you. I sense a new presence among us. And C4, thank you for the follow. So we have this other macro here. Among us. Let's see. Oh, help me out with this one. Euristia. Welcome. Thank you for the follow. And if I butcher anybody's alias, let me know. I'm more than happy to learn on this stuff. That's right. Oh, well, I'm glad. And welcome. Happy Friday. Anybody got any weekend plans? I'm going to be doing some digging. So, partly, Mitch, our little, oh, it finished. Okay. There we go. Yeah, sometimes we work on that too. That's our little warm up. We'll do Rust with Godot, right? And Godot engine is a game engine. And so we'll do that and work on those little events there. So. Can it be used in WASM? Oh, yes. So HTTP, the HTTP crate only has types in it. So we've got a local documentation. And if you're new to Rust, Rust has one of the best local documentation systems out of the box I've ever seen. So we are using a number of different crates in our project. Basically all of these, this is all of our dependencies. You're not knowing Rust? Okay. But yes, this only has types in it, so you can use it in WASM. So we're not using anything for I/O in this case, especially with Cloudflare, because Cloudflare is providing all of the I/O mechanisms. We have to use their I/O mechanisms. And I'll show you how we do that. Where's the CF bit? Now in Cloudflare, if we pull up their documentation, which we might have open, we've got pricing. Let's see, here's some durable objects. So there are streams, there's request and response. Now, where's their request type? You can see that they have a constructor. It's got a couple of parameters here. And they have different properties of this here. Apps, boolean, yada yada. So there's a lot of different elements here. Now, inside of your WASM script, you can say that there is this object in JavaScript land outside of the WASM script, right? Because this is actually run from inside of a JavaScript execution environment. Although, I mean, I always kind of assume it's like a Node.js variant or like something V8 inspired. Maybe a modified V8. Now, we're looking for a JS file. Okay, here's, oh, that's not it. Here. This is how we wire our WASM script into Cloudflare's handlers. We add an event listener for fetch, so you can tell that we start in JavaScript. Right? Here's our listener, our event handler. We load up WASM, initialize it, and then we call our Rust function right here. Now, where we're sitting here is, once we enter that, we're inside of WASM. And WASM can't just call JavaScript functions and all that. You have to say, I know of this, and basically create some sort of type that Rust knows how to use. And the way that we do that in this case is by saying that we know of this type out there. Like in this case, we have a pub type that we're going to call event. And if we call request off of something that is of type event, it's going to give us the request. And this is kind of more macros and macros, but this is how you access properties on top of some sort of JavaScript object. You don't have to write a lot of boilerplate code. They have these fantastic macros that do this for you. So if you need to get access to a property, you basically create a getter for it. If you need to be able to set something, guess what? There's setters, which are down here somewhere. But here's that request object that we were looking at earlier. I sense a new presence among us. Oh, Sweet Shark, thank you for the follow. And you can see that in this case, when we call fetcher on a request object, it's going to return a fetcher because it's a getter, right? But we also have to say that this is a type. We don't have to tell Rust what the properties are on this, just that it exists. And that's what we do here. So we have, I went ahead and put these all in their own little extra C blocks, but you could put them wherever you wanted. And this is going to take me a moment to parse. Devashis. How are you doing? If I butcher that, please let me know. And good morning. So yeah, you just have to tell it that there is a type here, and you're cool with it. Right? Then you can have it in your return types, in your other values, things like that. So, execution flow, we get our fetch handler function out of the Rust world. Running it back, yes. Rust is similar to C. What are the biggest advantages of Rust over C in your opinion? Ooh, that's a good question. It was easier to learn. Interesting. I did C for about 5.5 years. Actually, I love C. I love doing C. Um, Now, Rust over C though, Rust protects you from a lot of the foot guns that C has. You don't have to manage pointers directly, which removes a lot of the foot guns. Lifetimes, right? They use after free. You can do that in C left and right. That's really easy to do in C, and the compiler's not going to tell you about it. Um, so, a lot of little pieces like that. The borrow checker, right? Do you have two threads mutably trying to, modify something at the same time? There's a lot of benefit for Rust over C. Now, what is the system we're working on? We are working on a serverless website building system. So think WordPress, but on Cloudflare workers. So there's no database, right? Where you're going to use their key value store. There is no kind of, I don't know, just servers sitting there just running forever that you're paying for. It's kind of like a WordPress that you pay per use, pay per request, right? And the cost for that is minuscule. Good morning, Xenocron. So 15209, good morning. All right. So we initialize all the WASM stuff. We get into the fetch handler. Let's jump to the fetch handler. That's not it. Here's our fetch handler. We get this Cloudflare event here. And then we end up converting that into an HTTP request object. Let's see, I think that's right here. And some of this stuff actually needs to go away. Like that there. We're actually testing using our test framework as opposed to this right here. But we end up creating a request object and passing it into some handler and converting the response back to a Cloudflare response object. Anything to show so far? We've got some unit tests working, and let's see, where was that? That was oops, no, don't do that. We've got mimeograph. We've got this. We've got a little hello world that we set up forever ago, and we're much past this. I'll toss this into chat. That's kind of little. Cloudflare has this fantastic little dev environment for these things. If you haven't played with it before, I'd suggest it. It's pretty cool. So if we reload that, you'll see here on the timings that so much of this was blocked for different reasons. So I do it again. So less than 75 milliseconds is blocked for 2. And if we go into Cloudflare, wherever it went, over here, we should be logged in. It's going to ask me. There we go. Yes. Absolutely agree. Jay Bigley. Yeah. So let's go look at these. I'm trying to keep an eye on execution time. We had been using regular expression in here, but it actually increased the size of the WASM file by 700 kilobytes, which I want to try to keep this below 100 so that I can load onto the workers very quickly. Also, our median execution time was much higher when we were using regular expression. So we're trying to build out a router using proc macros that can do a lot of the work at compile time and set up some easy checks that, just using some string parsing, we can do some checks, see if the routes match, and execute the request. So we want this piece to be as light as possible. But if all y'all are making requests against that URL, we should see some more requests come in. And we see that the current median execution time is 2.3 milliseconds. And the duration is 25.96 megabytes per second, or megabyte seconds, which is interesting. Because if you're in an async await, it's not like they're having to spend CPU time on you. So they actually measure your bill based on how much memory you're using per CPU second, which is neat. I need to take some more water. Just a minute. And it looks like Starlink is behaving so far. So that I'm glad for. Yesterday, it was an utter disaster. Twice yesterday, they did system updates. So everything's so far so good. See Kane, morning. How you doing? Happy Friday, buddy. Happy Friday. Let's break this down a little further. Yeah, 2.6. So now, coming back a little further, let's go back over here. Hey, Brooke Zerker, good morning. Thank you for the raid. Yeah, Starlink already. Yep. Good morning. Welcome, Raiders. How are you? All right. So let's go into delete me, which is one of the tests we are using. This is our precursor to a test. Delete me will become a test. Chantilly Cake, good morning. You'll take a look into serverless. Over the last few months, your business has focused on moving to containers. Yes. And if you can move something to serverless, you could have, further cost savings there. I think Amazon and maybe Google are now measuring your bill based on milliseconds. So the difference between at least how Amazon measures your bill, if we come up here, is for them it's total time for the request, right? So a request comes in, your serverless bit starts up, right? And then eventually, you do some work in here and blah, 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 and it finishes and the response goes out, right? You might have some dead time in here where you're waiting for backend data. And while these frameworks are actually designed to be able to process request after request after request, right? So your little serverless module there is trying to stay busy. It doesn't actually process multiple requests at the same time. Because you can imagine with AWS, you're going to be hitting maybe some sort of, database backend, right? So you're going to go make some sort of database request and it's going to be here. And then you're going to have some dead time until the response comes back. From what I understand, Amazon's going to bill you for that time. Cloudflare is not, but I'm not exactly sure. I suspect this, and if anybody knows, please enlighten us. But because of how they're measuring the duration, to me it seems like it might not be. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it's exactly the same thing. But you don't have some sort of like a fixed memory overhead. Maybe that's the difference? Because in AWS, you say, oh, this thing's 128 megs, right? Run this in a 128 megabyte container. In Cloudflare, you just say run it. Because I don't choose how big. Or at least I haven't chosen how big. Yeah, I think that the way the Cloudflare is set up, they can optimize this quite a bit more. They can actually save you a little bit more. Anyhow, back into the code. So we've got our routes, right? And this is simulating um, a Cloudflare request response system. This is just in our delete me file. This will become a test. This is in CodeGen. And CodeGen doesn't know about anything Cloudflare. I actually want to make um, the mimeograph CodeGen and the mimeograph parts kind of open source. Mimeograph itself, I don't know yet. So we'll see. However, and the reason I do that is because it's easier to give than take away, right? If it becomes something that I really want to pursue as a business, then I'm going to hold on to it for a bit, right? Get that kind of first mover setup going, and then maybe open source it. We'll see. Not quite sure. I do like the model that like Source Hut is doing right now, in that like Source Hut, which I love, by the way. I like how minimalist it is. It says like GitHut, GitHub, Source Hut, GitHut. Friday morning, brain scrambled. Looking forward to the weekend. So, but yeah, it's a lot easier to give than take away. And we end up occasionally working on some of our other projects. Got Legacy, Mitch, our Twitch streaming assistant. That's a little glitter when somebody follows, or if somebody thumbs up a song. And it looks like Starlink has just been a champ this morning. And look, we got new graphs here. So I like that. Now you don't have to wonder. That's just right there. It's right there. Get HUD. Get integrated heads up display. Morning, Wardley. Yeah, they did some sort of upgrade yesterday. And for me, it has been life changing here. Before, we were spending $180 a month for a 4 megabit connection. Just, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. And now I don't have to like kick the kids off of doing their schoolwork whenever I hop into a meeting, right? And sometimes we'll hit 2:30 or so. Oh, Brooke, you're off to a meeting. Well, thank you. I hope you have a great day, great weekend. Enjoy your weekend, man. So this is pretty good. I mean, it's 25 times better, and it cost me half as much. So it's kind of a no-brainer for me. You can see we're connected to Seattle here. I am in the Pacific Northwest. If we hit it again, let's see, it might go a little faster, might go a little slower. Yeah, 180 for 4. But it means that, I could live out in the middle of nowhere where I wanted to be. And I could still work in tech. So we all make our sacrifices. But, saving $80 a month and getting more for it, no brainer. All right. So now we've kind of got like the base understanding of what's going on. The next portion of this is to start to look at the return types. Oh, you know what we should do? We should look at the code generated from this just for a moment. All right, we'll run that test. So we're taking this code right here, and we're going to generate the code for it and look at that. You're amazed at how much some areas of the USA get changed for internet? Oh, get charged for internet. Yes. Because either the infrastructure is not there, or, the base cost is just really, really high. Like I could get fiber for 1,500 a month, 2 grand a month. Like if I wanted 2 gigabit per second fiber, that's $2,000 a month for me. It's going to include a lot of digging, a lot of stuff I don't want to have to do right now. And I don't want to pay that much. I mean, 1,500 a month for a gigabit per second, which, I mean, what would I do with that? Download my Netflix faster. So we converted this. We generated the code for all these macros. Let's look at that. And this is the generated code. It generated it. It formatted it. You can see the main here got wrapped for our test because this is a piece of test code. So allow dead code. Here's the entry point. We end up having main. Oops. It's got some external crate, test, all of this stuff in here. Then this gets called. You can see our router macro. Pop back over here. That's this macro right here. Generated a bunch of code for us. It's like $100 where you are in Albania. Oh, wow. Yeah. And the United States is huge. It's very, very large, and most of it's empty. So if you live in an empty spot, the costs go up. Yeah, 2 gig fiber. Wow. You download those 500 gigabyte games in no time. I tend not to play those games anyways. Okay, so we have this macro, and this got expanded into this whole block here, right? It created this closure. Now this is a closure, and that's our router. And then we end up calling the router. Right? Let's see if we can pull these up side by side. So yeah, we have this creates a closure, and then we end up just matching on that. So here's the match down below. You can see that all the comments are removed because, it's generating code. It strips stuff. But here, that router, what is it doing? It takes a request and returns a result that either has something or it doesn't. It has a response or it doesn't, or an error. Right? And the error type, we're going to fix that up later. For now, we just have Boxstein error. Now, the first thing we do is split up the URL. So in this case, we take some sort of the URI, the path part of the URL. So if you had like a HTTP, google.com/foo-bar-baz, like question mark, like A equals B and C equals D. The piece that we're getting is here. From there to there. This is the path section. This is the query. You have the host, the protocol. So we're just getting the path section, and we end up splitting that. All right, we split that on slash, and then for each route that we have, we're going to test against it. Prices of internet sound like for gold internet. It was where you had less than €10 for 100 megabit per second to Spain. Wow. 600 megabit. Whoa, but in the USA it's 5 times as expensive. Yeah, it really is. And it depends on where you live. Some places in the States have great internet at reasonable prices. Like my boss, she lives in California and has fiber to her doorstep. Like it's great internet access at much less than I pay. we had to set up an Ubuntu virtual machine to build Godot and your Rust code because Manjaro's packages are too new and cause a runtime linking error with Ubuntu Docker. Oh wow, wow! And does that work okay in there? I mean, it must. Oh, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. So in this case, we end up having a series of functions, and we're passing in references to these functions. So these are just little static things. These are wrappers around the functions that you provide. Okay. And then we just iterate over each one, checking to see, you know, did it match or not? If it didn't, or if it didn't match, we go to the next one. If it was okay or error, we return that. And then up above, where we had, let's say, the foobar baz, that doesn't get any extra properties. We end up calling that from a function that we generate. And this foobar baz looks and has everything kind of created at compile time to make this as fast as possible for matching. We end up creating a little, an array to store the arguments in. We iterate, well, we create our segments right here. So we have our little enumeration that's local to this. It just makes it easier. Basically, it's compiled away. We iterate over the different segments, matching the arguments passed in versus what we're looking for. And if everything matches, we end up calling the function that we're wrapping. Oh, you can use the Arch Linux base image for testing. When you want to release it, you'll have to build it in a VM. Huh. Oh, wow. So this is kind of like top level stuff. Now, what we need to work on at the moment is working on the return types. This little bit right here. Okay. We need our wrapper functions to know what the request type and the response type are. Like these two little pieces. We need those to match up. And those are going to be different depending on who's using this crate. Because in our case, we're using Cloudflare input and outputs. Right? So these are going to be stream objects, these two pieces here. In the case of, like if you're using this for something else, maybe on AWS and you want, some non-regex based router, you could use this. And you might end up with a different type here. So we want to make this flexible, and we're going to start parsing these pieces out. So let's go back to delete me. And you know what? I had seen this before. I didn't see this until just a moment ago when I pointed it out. So we should probably look at that too. I mean, maybe we make this. No, we can't really make this generic for T because somebody's going to know what they want. And this is a good example of what they might have. So in this case, this request object might actually be a string, in which case each one of these would have to be string. And we would get an error down here because the types wouldn't match. No. Okay. But let's focus on the response type first. So in this case, we want string versus the Cloudflare type. Or you could release it on Arch if you wanted to update it every couple of months. Wow. Oh, man. Kind of in the middle now. But so far, so good. All right. Let me find something real quick. Okay. Now, where are we going to go with this? Parsing the return type. This is in CodeGen for route. Interrupt. I encourage questions. So if you see something, you want to know more, you want to understand what it's doing, please ask. All right. So this is our route attribute. And it's not quite where we start with the route attribute. We have to start in lib because proc macros, their entry point has to be at the top level file. So in this case, it's lib.rs. And we have proc macro here. You cannot use this in a submodule. It has to be at the top. This is proc macro attribute. And we're actually using macro rules to be able to generate, how many of these? Is that 7? 7 different macros. And this is possible. You can use macros to generate macros. That works. So we have a macro for each one of the verbs, which is how we end up with, get. Right? This could be get. We could also have a post here. Different things like that. This is how we create each one of those, and they go all into the same proc macro. It's because they go into the same code. They're technically different proc macros because they get stamped out here. Macro rules generates code for each and every one of these. You can see that this macro rules is named route verb, and there's 7 of them. And then that matches here. So get, in this case, will match the verb. So inside of our macro, we'll have this variable available to us and its type. And then it matches this token here, this fat arrow. Then we have another expression, which we can use inside of our macro. You can see we define a proc macro attribute and a function. A function name is actually passed in. So this is going to be the function name. And later we pass the method into the function that it calls. So it's kind of handy, exactly how Rocket does it. Directly inspired by Rocket. So then inside of route attribute, if we look at this, we have the args and the input here. Now args represent, where is it? Let's go to delete me again. Args represent this section here, the section inside the brackets. For $160 here in the UK, you get 1 gig internet, landline, mobile, all unlimited usage, and full TV package. We don't even get like over the air TV signal here. I tried. I'd have to set up some giant tower to be able to receive TV signal. So we just use the internet. And it's mostly like Netflix and like Voodoo. But yeah. And that's crazy. Sounds nice. No. So the args represent the piece inside the square blocks, and the input is the function that it's attached to. Okay. So this is the args, and this is the input. Europe and England have super good internet and other utilities. Yeah. I actually lived there for a while. I really enjoyed it. We lived in Chorleywood. Yeah. It's where my daughter was born. So, yeah. Starlink is just fantastic. It has improved, I guess, even my relationship with some of the kids because, their internet's not like going down because I have to, hop in a meeting or something like that. So it's been good. All right. So we have the args, we have the input. Then we jump into this a little further. We go into route attribute. This just pipes through to a couple other functions and unwraps. We're actually using nightly rust so that we can get the diagnostics. I'm not sure if we're going to keep that around long enough to truly use diagnostics the way that they could. We might back out the diagnostic bits later. From here, we pass these values through again. And you see this into here on args. We're converting a token stream into a token stream 2 here. So we have this parse route. And I sense a new presence among us. Oh, thank you for the follow. It says Bleachin74, thank you, and happy Friday. Oh, even in rural, you have pretty good mobile internet. Oh, that's cool. Speed's not good though? I mean, what's your top speed? Remember, I was using 4 megabit per second, which is part of the reason why I try to stream at a low bit rate. So the more people can actually, pop in here and follow along. Now, if we go back to here, you can see that we're using the heck crate, which is great for converting cases. So in this case, we're going from snake case to shouty snake case. And we have route 4 as a constant. And then foobar baz is our other function that we end up wrapping. So here's the wrap function. We use heck to convert that case. Wow, then it's good. Yeah, 250. Yeah, that speed sounds really nice. I mean, you're still beating me, right? Let's see, if I hit over 250 here, that's not going to happen, let's face it. Now, occasionally, this has been low today, but yesterday it was actually a lot faster. I think they're testing something else out. I'm not sure what. But I think they're doing some sort of maintenance. I think my top was about 300. It was doing some sort of OS upgrade. All right. So we convert that. We end up getting this wrapped function, and this is where we parse the function. We're using the syn crate, and we tell it parse this input as if it were an item function. Okay. Then we get a parsed function. Right? Isn't that cool? Like all of this is just there and available for you to use. So if you're doing proc macro stuff, and you said like, oh, I don't want to do proc macros because you have to deal with all these tokens and things like that, it's already built. Right? You just say, oh, I want this as a function. So we get the wrapped function, and then we can look at different pieces of the function. Like here, the name, the wrapped function, the signature of the function. We want the identifier. We convert it to a string and then convert that to shouting snake case. Just so quick and easy. Infinity, good morning. They're trying to make satellites connect with each other. Oh, and rely less on ground stations. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Getting less latency across the country or around the world. That would be nice. Okay. So we end up using this. We're going to kind of jump into the meat of today's stream. So I've got about another hour and a half, and I want to make some progress on it. But this here, this is where we generate the function, our wrapper function. It's not that hard, actually, CK. And if, I mean, I imagine there's a lot of Rust fans or Rust interested people here. So Detolne, if we go to Detolne's GitHub, what's it, slash Detolne. Let's say, you want to know my opinion in backend frameworks like Node.js, Spring, compared to efficient Go and Rust. I think in most cases, you're better off using the framework that you can get something delivered in, right? If you're a Rails expert, don't do Rust, right? Toss something in Rails, get a product delivered, and then optimize it. So, use the tools that you know that you're good at, and then later when you go to optimize as the last step, it should always be the last step. Then you go through and you might use something else. Yep, minimum viable project. Absolutely. I mean, if you're doing it for fun and you want to learn Rust, oh, have at it, right? If you're trying to launch something, get something out the door, right? Your goal is different. But this we went through this, goodness, nearly a year ago, and this is a fantastic way to learn macros in Rust. Highly, highly suggest this. I sense a new presence among us. Oh, and thank you for the follow, Atomic Super Geek. That's bringing an image to mind, Atomic Super Geek. From those, only Node in production. It's not what you would prefer. Oh, that's interesting. For me, my day job is kind of web dev at the moment, and I've got quite a varied background from doing like MMOs in Java and Flash, working on Erlang stuff. I liked getting Erlang into production. I've done it twice, and it is just so low maintenance in production. So low maintenance. Yep. If it's what your team wants, if you work in a team, yeah. Where I currently am, we're a bit of a Rails shop, right? And so it doesn't make sense for the backend to try to pull in Rust stuff. They're just not Rust people, right? And in terms of business, it's easier to just pay more for servers than to hire Rust engineers. Oh, you're going to try to get ClojureScript into production. Oh, yeah. Rambo Merino. I got to adjust these colors. That's funny. All right. So we need to change this here because we cannot dictate what the response type is here. So we need some other sort of response type. It needs to be like this. The difference here is that, let's see, what should this be? Because we're going to be taking this from what type to what type? Because we have a wrapper and the other type. So we have a result of T, which in this case is a response string. Yeah, basically we need to insert an option around this type here, because it's possible that something doesn't match. We could just wrap the whole thing in an option. Oh, that actually might be much easier. Because if we just wrap that in an option, Oh, that'll be super, super easy because then we just grab the result type and toss that on there. Where is that? Because then, so let's pretend that we flip this. This is going to be an option here on the outside. And then we have a result of that we can use transpose. Okay. So if we do this, option to result, then our return type is wrong here. So we could just return none here. You're quite confused on what to learn. You've been using Node.js for a while now and started to feel you're going nowhere, so you decided to learn a new framework language for backend development. Oh, interesting. What are you looking at? Yeah, I mean, where are you in your, I guess your kind of engineering life cycle? Are you kind of in the beginning of it? Have you been an engineer for a while? So I'll return none there, none here. And then we just end up calling that. And in this case, we map that to a sum. And so we swap that. We have sum in that result. Did we get that correct? Because we're flipping this. So option, it's now on the outside. You're in the beginning of the cycle, just exploring new things. So expand your horizons on backend engineering. Oh, awesome. Engineering caterpillar, butterfly. You're a decomposed. Oh, bravo. Bravo. Yeah. Yeah. You skipped unicorn, Baden. You go from caterpillar to butterfly to something else to unicorn and then decomposed. Morning, Leonardo. Good morning. Okay. Now, to get this matched up, because we flipped that, we have to go into router and make sure that our router knows the new type. So router matcher, and this is flipped. So if we get a none back, we do that. If we get okay or error, this would be some okay or error. And here, would that just pass through? Or do we return the option? Now, I think this should be the same way, an option on the outside. So it matches or it doesn't. You skipped unicorn? Oh, Peyton. For new people to programming, you would say serverless applications and backend are a good start. It's definitely a different way of thinking about backend engineering. Highly agree. I haven't even looked in the job market for this stuff. But I like the idea of being able to pay for just what you use, just a smidgen of time that you use. I mean, auto scaling, everything is just so nice with serverless. Caterpillar digests itself and turns into a blob of living fluid before turning into a butterfly. That's you? The blob of living fluid. Very nice. It's a great stage. It's a great stage. Yeah, you get to certain stuff. You get certain stuff for free. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, let's go modify delete me, because I don't think we have to modify that anymore. This here, our match needs some help, because now this is going to be some okay. Oops. And this will just be none. And then we have some error. I think that's doable. That's nice. And arguably, if we wanted to keep it the other way, we could. But having option on the outside, I don't think affects this. It might just make it that much easier to manage these macros. Okay, now we're going to try to find the route code again. And we're going to make this response type generic. So everything inside what? VI, right block. All of this, we want to be able to pull from the function definition. You used to work in transcribing Facebook lives aimed at infrastructure tech people. Oh, interesting. Guy was all about Microsoft services. Huh, that's cool. He didn't understand much. It was like, this whole Azure thing is pretty dope. Yeah, there's things that people like and things that people don't like about each one of the, what is it, the big three? They got Microsoft, Amazon, Google. But it sounds neat. Okay, so let's get the return type. Let all right. This is going to be off of, was it wrapped function signature output dot, I think we actually have to match this. Sin, what was it? Item function using our local documentation. And output here is of type return type. And that's an enumeration. Okay. So we do need to match this. And if it's not a proper return type, we need to return an error. Or do we have to? What if it's nothing? Huh. I guess we could return unit. Would that even make sense? So let's match that. Output, and it was output dot what? Good morning. What is this? Is this Nosco peoples? Happy Friday, everyone. Backends are super nice. Websites, not so much. Load balancing, paying for what you consume and stuff. It's pretty dope. Yeah. Yeah. Although I'm still a big bare metal fan. I like bare metal. I like managing servers. So for me, I don't know. I've actually worked at a place where one of our AWS are like we were paying a ton of money for this machine. It was a beast. It's an AWS, and it vanished one day. Just poof, gone. That sucked. That really sucked. You call them up, say, hey, my box is gone. And they say, what box? We've been using a box for 2 years. We've been paying for it for 2 years. Look at what you've been billing us. It's gone. Like, oh, I see it on your bill. We don't know what it was. Poof. Gone. All right. So we need output off of signature. Match output. Fill match arms. Oh, I love COC for this. So in this case, let's return unit. I sense a new presence among us. And Caro follows. Good morning, and thank you for the follow. I sense a new presence among us. Serverless is much more useful for small teams. Yes. Yeah, even when I worked on really big teams, we used well, I've used AWS and Microsoft. I've never used GCD at a big place or Google Cloud. I used Azure and AWS. And thank you, Nosco Peoples. Thank you for the follow. Happy Friday, man. Now, our return type here, we're just going to be dropping this in, so we need something that we can quote here, or something that we can drop into there. So we're just going to quote. We need that as our return type here. And in this case, this is the ignored, what is this? This is the arrow, right? Yeah, we do not need this. And the way that SYN works and the way that it parses, it does not lose anything. So you get all of the matched tokens. And in this case, that return type arrow, we're just going to ignore that. And then we have the type. We'll just call that tie. Toss that inside of a quote. So that's going to be our return type. Does that have to be inside of a quote? I don't think it does. Oh, value moved here. Borrow this field in the pattern to avoid moving. Okay. There, we'll borrow that. AWS solution is to educate customers to build more reliable architectures. Fault tolerant, yes. Well, yeah, I mean, we did have a fault tolerant stuff, but when it's your master and it suddenly vanishes, you want answers. I mean, you're not supposed to be protecting yourself against your provider, right? So much confetti. Oh, it's still there. Yeah, I've got a bug in what we call Mitch. It's our glitter machine here. Thank you for that. Oh, Zenocron. We know you love AWS. Oh, excuse me, Azure. Yes. Oh yeah. And if you're doing small stuff, you don't even reach the paid stages. I wonder if we can just return tie there. I think we can. Oh, but the return type's different. Of course. Now tie in this case is a box type global. It's borrowed. Let's just do a quote on this. Let's say compile time. It's not a runtime. Should be fine. Now we have the same type being returned, both SYN, and we should be able to then get rid of this and return type. Oh, I like that. That is much easier. I thought we were going to have to parse into the result, insert option at just the right place, but no. This is turning out nice. You can't write Zenocron with Azure? Without Azure? GCP's autopilot Kates, Kubernetes. Yeah, I haven't looked at that. I've spent a lot of time with our DevOps team with Kubernetes, and watching somebody kind of get into DevOps, grow with Kubernetes is amazing. He has actually been a fantastic DevOps engineer. Okay, so now we have our return type. What are we missing though? Let's see. Let's give that a convert. And we're converting delete this one. Oh, no, that's not it. That one. Converting this into the generated code. Interesting. Takes one type argument. Okay, let's see. What did that do? That has to be. Oh, yes. You're clocking out too? Nice. Well, happy Friday, Zacron. Oh, sorry. I wasn't on auto mod. Not on top of it. Okay, so it looks like we need the comma in the right place. This comma should be shifted over one here. That one there. And this bracket actually needs to go to the end. So let's move that bracket. Is it this one? Option 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. This one looks right. Oh, and this is wrong. We'll get to that. This should be option to whatever type. And this can't be generic, can it? Oh, this is going to be a challenge. Did we get that right? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, comma. Yeah, that looks right now. Oh, too many now. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, one too many. There we go. Typed it wrong. All right, that looks okay. Let's come back to delete me. This enum takes one type argument, but two type arguments were supplied. It's talking about an enumeration. This is the hard part about proc macros, is that if you don't have a decent setup here for being able to expand and look at the output, it can make it difficult. Yeah, this option to a result here. Oh, the result should, did we not do that? We just looked at that. Result. Oh, that one. Because the box error, that should have been over there. Okay. Yeah, we had the closing bracket here. Okay. Hit that again. The neat thing about proc macros is when you do get it right, it's a nice little achievement. All right. Now we could just get rid of the return type here, because I don't know if there's going to be a way that we could realistically know this type here. So all we have at this point is the ability to generate these names. And these names happen to match up. In this part of the proc macro, we don't know what the return type is. All we have is the name. PogChamp has just come out of hype. Yeah, I don't know why either. That was a weird thing. It just kind of showed up once. When did that show up? Maybe that'll... Thinking maybe that would tell us a little something, but I don't know. See, we can get rid of the return type here. Not here. And where do we use this? So that's a third argument to this prefixed array. Let's step into that. That's this type here. Yeah, here. We're creating an array. Do we have to know how many there are? So right now in the generated code, this is the other neat thing. You can kind of make changes to the generated code, see if it works. Because I think we can get rid of this whole section and just have that to the equal, because all the type information should be here. I sense a new presence among us. Oh, thank you for the follow, Risen Devil. Oh, Risen Devil. I was thinking that place in Lord of the Rings, Rivendell. Happy Friday. So what's going on? If we do remove that, then what's different? Mismatch type expected for RST0 function R request. Those are both the same. Options, standard result, response, string, box, die standard error, plus static. Is it because these are, they're not Dyn functions? In this case, we say that we want these to be Dyn functions. If we just remove that piece there, the compiler should be able to fill that in. And probably this here. That looks like that might work. The face of the original PogChamp emote was calling for civil unrest after the US Capitol raid, so Twitch removed it. Oh, interesting. But then added the keyword back with a different emote every 24 hours. And then this snake was picked to be the new Pog. Wow. Okay, so in this case, less is more. Having the Dyn function there is nice. So let's just remove some of the type information that the compiler can fill in itself. Let's tie token stream 2. Oh. Oh, yes. That's down here. Okay, it should be able to fill in the blanks there. That's good. Okay, so far so good. Let's give it another build. Give this a save. Not too many errors. This goes away. These aren't really errors. So what's going on here? Is this the last piece that's having an error? I think that, and then we figure out the request types, and this is done. Oh wow. I sense a new presence among us. Rel for one. Thank you for the follow. And happy Friday. Oh, Mitch is just frozen. We got screen confetti. Oh, interesting. It did go away without me doing anything. I just had to focus on the screen. That's weird. Okay. Oh, this one takes two. Yes, I did the same thing with the option. Okay, let's fix that. Back to router. Yep, it's that one right there. That goes later. There we go. Build it again. It's Friday for Mitch as well. Absolutely. All right, so we got our delete me too. Remember, we can ignore these errors down here. Those aren't real errors. Everything up here looks good. That's great. Okay, let's look at the errors. Oh, because our return type is different now. Yes, our return type should be what? See, this should just be a pass-through, shouldn't it? Okay, error. We just do it like that. That should fix that, no? Oh, because we have a return type in this. Okay, so first we fix this, the okay or error, and then our return type needs to be loosened up a bit. Yeah. And our return type here, again, I think less is more in this case. Let's see if it'll take this here. I don't know if we can do this with a closure like this. Hopefully we can. Okay. Delete me too. Give it a save. Just gonna get rid of that. Oh yes, this actually needs to be a none. Oops. Because we're returning, we flip this. It should just be a none. Okay, what else? Is that it? Those two types don't match? Some okay response. Oh, yes, and then we're inside of a main function here, and it doesn't make sense. Because this type here, this is part of delete me. And this here should be empty like that. Okay, now coming back here, our return type, where was it? Okay, in router. Did I lose it? I've lost it. Okay, where was it again? Play it again, please. Moij. Good morning. And how do you pronounce that? Is it a g or a j? Or is it something I missed altogether? So for HTTP, I'm actually using just the types. Because we're inside of a Cloudflare worker, we have to use the Cloudflare mechanisms for input and output. Cloudflare provides us with a fetcher that we can use, right? So we do not need anything more than just the HTTP types, which is from the HTTP crate. And all it has is just general purpose common HTTP types. So something that can represent a request or a response, headers, etc. So that's the crate we're using. So we're not using any Rust crate for input and output. We're dependent on Cloudflare for the input and the output. All right, so we fixed the return type. Now, is that it? If we clean this up again, here, not that, go back. Is this fine? It's all happy? Oh, wow. Oh, what's this? No. All right, so we need to initialize that variable. And what else? There's two. Yes, okay, so two of those. And what do we initialize those to? Because args is equals what? I mean, something like so? That's a mismatched type. Oh, in this case, it's 0. Okay. Well, and that's mismatch count. In this case, can we initialize it with empty string? Okay. All right. Loich. Loich. It's more of an E. The I gives you an E. What language? What language? Is it kind of German or is it North? Norse? It could be Norse. That's one of the hardest for me. It's like the Norse. It's a made up one. Oh, okay. But you're Italian. Well, good morning and happy Friday. And it looks like we can use empty string for our placeholder. All right. So empty string there. Toss an initializer there. Oh, it needs to be mutable. Of course it does. Let's go into route. Starting to get too many of these. Args is mutable. Yes. It's equal to some array. And we need the contents of the array. So for this many elements, we need an empty string in there. Hello, pizza boy. Good morning. All right. Let's see. I got a little Starlink mishap going on, I think. But, I mean, maybe not. It's showing up okay over there. Huh. That's our Starlink data. All right. So we need the args. We have to generate this list outside. So we need for that number of elements. And where are we setting those up? Segments? Yeah, this value here. So where's segment count defined? There we go. Oh, it's not segment count. We need the where is it? No. Oh, the segment arg count is the one we need. This one. Okay, let's find that. So the wrapped args. are there. Wrapped args default is going to be equal to basically this same thing, but we're going to quote an empty string. I mean, that's it, really. That's all we're doing. That's unused. Now we can expand that here. Pound paren pound wrapped args. Toss that in there, comma star, and we're done. Hey, Tim, how's it doing? How's your week? It's Friday. Good morning. Actually, you might be a little ahead of me, aren't you? You're almost noonish, if I understand correctly. Still working though, yes. Yeah, I understand that. I'm doing my pre-work fun. Yeah, I'm West Coast. I'm Pacific Northwest. And this is our Starlink data. So Starlink data is now available on stream. So you can see when it goes for that little nosedive, and we have like, I don't know, just no satellites. Yeah, that'll show up there. I don't know how easy it is to see, like the itty bitty little text. Yeah, my arm's cut off way up there. Um, but that'll show you how many minutes of downtime I've had in the past 12 hours. Okay. This is looking pretty good. Let's compile this. We're writing code that writes code today, Tim. So we just generated this delete me file. Gonna see what's wrong in it. We're doing an HTTP router that does most of its work at compile time. Codebots don't replace me. Oh, we couldn't replace you, Tim. We couldn't do that. You know, I don't see any more errors. We're going to have to figure out what to work on next. Oops, that went poorly. I'll just type in panic. Enough fancy Vim stuff. Okay. Wow. All right. Now, what are we missing here? Some things that we're missing would be this type here. We've now set it up so that these types are flexible. The macros don't care what that type there is. We need to make sure that it doesn't care about this one either. Let's go into request. Our route. Yep, it's in route. That there. Do we make this generic? Have it pass through this type? We could do that. Trying to figure out, do we want to pass the whole thing through? Want to have some sort of requirement that this is an HTTP request? That would kind of be nice. But if we're looking at this as a user, let's go into our delete me file. This is our test file. We can see we have the macros set up so that this function would be called if this route matches, and so on. And so we get this as the input to this macro. And we could look at the arguments here and just pass those through. How much of this object here do we need? Do we need to know that this is a certain type? Is that type? Let's see, we're going to get an error here if the type isn't correct. We could probably just pass that through. Let's just pass that through. I love it, Leonardo. That's funny. CSS is hard to do well. It really is. And hard to do in a manageable way. Yes, we are targeting Cloudflare's workers, and we're trying to set up um, basically I think WordPress, like a serverless WordPress built on top of Cloudflare. And at the moment, we're working on some of the macros because we want as much done at compile time. Because if these things are having to spin up, right, we don't want to have to initialize a regular expression engine. We don't want to have to, pound out some regex code and all that. So we're trying to do this in macros. So we do this at compile time as much as we can so that it just fires up and processes. That and regular expression, when we had regex in here, it bloated the WASM file because this gets compiled down to WebAssembly so we can run it on Cloudflare's workers. It increased the WASM file size by 700 kilobytes just by adding regex. So, avoiding regex. It also improved our response times. So, we could pull that up. Where is it? Here. So, in this case, in the last 30 minutes, nothing, 6 hours. So, yeah, our median CPU time, we're at 1.4 milliseconds. And WASM pack. Oops, where are we? We need to go into, inside of mimeograph. This might not actually compile because we changed all the macros. This is where we're trying to get back to. So, is he going to do it? Oh, it's actually, wait, no, what are we doing? Releasing? I wanted to build in release mode. Oh, I updated Rust to the latest version. So it has to rebuild everything again. Luckily, it doesn't take very long, which is nice. We're using heck for our string case changing. TinyVec? We don't need that anymore. Who's using TinyVec? Oh wow, we're at 40 now. So we actually dropped 10K. That'll change. Am I aiming to be somewhat compatible with WordPress or is it some new CMS blog engine? I would say it's along the lines of a new CMS blog engine. Yeah, and right now it's pretty much a proof of concept, and I'm dedicated to building a website for my neighbors. But I'm kind of doing it my way. So I want to build something that I can then reuse to build something for my wife. As what is it? What is that? My buddy at work told me saying the other day. He's from I think the Ukraine. He was saying the blacksmith knives are made of wood, right? It's, I guess the same sort of thing as the cobbler's kids have no shoes, right? So I'm a web dev, and my wife doesn't have a website that she wants. So trying to make something that I can use to make websites more quickly and easily, and to be able to run on a kind of a pay-as-you-go way, right? That's a fantastic thing about serverless. Okay, so that seems like it's kind of working. Let's let's have this just pass those values through. We're going to inject this. What do we need to do with request? Request just gets passed through, right? Yeah, that just passed through. So we'll have their args first, followed by our args. Story sounds familiar to how Elasticsearch got started. Am I ready for it? That's fine. Yeah. Yeah, I'm fine with that. So, where are their types here? In this case, we have the wrapped function. We have the signature. Right? Let's see, where are the args for that? Let's go back to here. Sin. Item function. I think the hardest thing about macros is it's got a lot of breadth to it. So it's a lot of information. But once you get comfortable with it, it's not bad. Okay. Inputs here? Maybe this is it. Parent token inputs. And then the output. What's this one? Oh, the dot dot dot. Yeah, you can only do that out there. You can't do that in Rust. So we should just be able to pass inputs all the way through. Let's try that. Let wrapped function inputs. And we have to kind of have local variables that we can then put inside of the quote section. Wrapped function dot sig dot inputs. We're just going to save that to a local. And now that it's a local, we can use it inside of this code generation block. So quote generates Rust code. Where are we going? Up here. So in this case, I'm going to pass in the route segments and then their params. But then how do we pass those through? Because we're going to have the type information on these too. So we're going to have the inputs and then also pass those through. Oh, I don't know if I like this. Let me show it. Let's show you what I'm thinking. Wrap function inputs. Right, that can go there, and that would have those. Wait, what does this say? Borrow to partial. Oh, we need to borrow that. Yeah, borrow that. Okay. Now we don't have request anymore, but we need to pass request on down here. So we need to be able to then say, okay, your wrapped function. Here's your request object. Here's your input. You can lend me. That's funny. How you doing, Perkin? Happy Friday, man. Happy Friday. Oh, look, we had a little Starling blip up there. You can see it. Yeah, we dropped some. Yeah. Where is it? It's just to the right of, like, right here. Yeah, just below this. Yeah, load delay. Absolutely. I didn't use Stitch. I mean, the wrapped inputs, maybe we just can convert those. Okay, let's find, okay, let wrapped function names. No, input names. Sure, something like that. And then we have to map over these. Because what do we get for inputs? Inputs is punctuated. Function argument. Okay, now punctuated gives us something that we can iterate over, maybe. Into iterator, okay. From iterator. We can clone it. All right. So if we do this, we got punctuated, but what is it punctuated of? We have receiver and typed. Oh, interesting. Ooh. The self argument. Okay, that's not going to be what we're using. This should only be type, pat type. And what is that? The attributes, pattern, colon. So this would be if it's borrowed, etc. And then we want the type. So it looks like for me, we just want the box pat here. We just want a list of these. I think we can get away with just having drilled down to that. Let's go back a bit. So we have inputs. We need to basically just get a list of those. Spanish for the most advanced. Hmm. Now let's think through this a little bit. Does so we could make this generic for over T. Because what if instead request was HTTP request of T, right? And we said that this was T here. So we can do that and just pass that through. And then it would have to match here, but that's okay. Let's see if that works. The generic route here. Because then we can enforce that this is an HTTP request. The Spanish Armada. They did a lot of exploration too, right? Because they ended up hitting a little bit south of the American coast. You see a lot more in the Caribbean and a little further south of there. My history on this is really weak. Okay, let's give that a build. Oh, interesting. Found colon. Oh, did I forget? That's on line 79 up here. Oh, oh yeah, we don't need that. Okay, try again. Ah, capitalism as we know it. Yes. All right, that works. Let's go into delete me too. Okay. Interesting that this has a oh, this is the one we grabbed it and passed it through, right? For the return type. And we're making this generic for that side of it. That's fine. Where are we getting the issues though? Oh, it's supposed to be borrowed. Yes, yes, it should. That should have been a borrowed request. Because we don't want to copy it. We don't want to give it ownership. Oops. No. Enter. Okay, good. Now what's wrong? Oh, because of unit. Foobar Baz. Take something of type. The caller determines the type, not the receiver. So in this case, if we go back to delete me, we should see what the user's error would be. Mismatch types. Right. So if this was T and this is T, who determines what T is? It's the caller, it's route. I mean, that's okay. It's a little wart, but it's not too bad. And the rest of it compiles. Generate again. Let's go into delete me 2. Take another peek. Incorrect ident. Oh. Are you saying we don't need heck? Well, that simplifies it. Let's strip out heck then. This works. Hmm. Just want to see. Does this compile otherwise? I want to get past the first layer of compile errors and see if there's something else. Yes, in this case, it's never used. That's fine. And we don't want that bubbling up. So we could toss allow dead code on those. Here. Will that get the whole block? Okay, let's remove heck. Or is it? Cogen cargo. Goodbye, heck. Then in 2 places, in route, heck here. 2 shouty snake case. Get rid of that. This one too. And then inside of cogen lib, where we define this, let's make this lowercase. Okay. I like not having to be not needing to lowercase that or uppercase that. It's a nice change. Back to delete me too. Okay, dead code worked there. Huh? So far, so good. Now let's come back to delete me. I want to see where the warnings pop up through. Yeah, not expanded. That's fine. Nothing comes up through this. That's nice. Okay, now let's consider the generics there. It would be nice to not have to force people to make this generic. Because what if they say, oh, you know what, my request, I know what it is, it's a string. Right? Then yes, our type is wrong because the generic type is actually first. That's called first. And the reason this is a problem is, yes, because the caller determines the types in generics. So in this case, if we go back to, let's say, delete me too, where it's all expanded, the router is going to call this first. And because this has a generic, um, the caller determines what this value is, what this type is. So where we have this HTTP request, we don't know what it should be, unless it's given to us down here in the router wherever we are. Here, this request here determines what the type is because route is called here, and this is our wrapper. I'm surprised that it doesn't see this entirely. So if we get rid of that, whoa, 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 whoa. My key got stuck. Okay. Try again. See, in this case, there's no error. Now we get this because the caller doesn't know the type. Hmm. All right, let's try to get the argument. Well, yeah, let's just do it the right way. We'll get rid of this. We'll read this argument, this this parameter. Try to parse it. Get this type here. That seems like a lot for what we're trying to do. Because if we're not doing that, why aren't we just passing it through? Okay, let's go back to passing it through. Wrap function inputs. Because then we have to know what they are, right? Well, what if we What if we say there can only be one? And we get the type off of the one. Because we only need the first type. Let's pretend, for the moment, that we have everything else here except for this, right? Wrap function input. And that's going to be the input. We take that, we pass it through to their type down here. We call it request, but I mean, beginning of the 17th century. How do you make a... Oh, that's interesting. Huh. In the times of Shakespeare. Okay, so let's get this type here mapped in. Now inputs, sig inputs, punctuated. So we could just get the first one. Say, we only do one. Or we could get the length and throw an error saying, oh, you can only have one input. And it must be of type such and such. So let's do that. Where's the error? Here. If wrapped function dot sig dot inputs dot length is not equal to 1. What do we do? So at this point, we need to return an error. And what is our error type again? Diagnostic. Leonardo. I sense a new presence among us. Let's see. Oh, thank you for the follow, 7mar. And happy Friday. Yeah, okay. Oh, I like that one. Don't get into a pillow fight with death unless you're ready to deal with the repercussions. Repercussions. That's hard to say. Repercussions. I gotta save that one. We're saving these. And let's see. Put it under Leonardo. Okay, got it. See, we want to return a new one of these. Oops. No, 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 not there. Go back to route. Here. Now this span is going to be here. Inputs is punctuated. Okay, can we get the span for that? No? Oh. Is that not in scope? thought it was in scope. Huh. Okay, no. Okay, that's a proc macro span already. That's fine. It needs to be a proc macro span, not a proc mac 2 span. Error. And what is the diagnostic going to be? This is going to be um, only one parameter is allowed, something like that. I don't know. Information copy. Oh, yes, Gutenberg, the printing press. Speaking of which, a little descendant here, mimeograph. Okay, so then at this point we know that we only have, well, that we must have one input. And then down below, let's take that one input. It's going to be first. Now we have an option to a function arg. I'm going to unwrap that because it must exist. We have verified it. So now we have a function arg. Okay. Now on the function arg, we want the type information. And the universe. Yeah, we're littering the universe with our noise. Imagine 20 years of like I Love Lucy being broadcast from a little rock in space. All right, this should be this type. Should not be like and self. So let's match that. Continue. Now receiver, it should not be. And in this case, we want to give some sort of error back. This is one of the reasons that we're using the diagnostics here. Is that going to work? Member function's not supported. I don't know. Because you can't put this on like something that takes self. All right, and what do we want to return here? This is going to be just the end portion. So we have this pat type, and so that's beforehand. Pat the colon. We want the type. So pat type dot tie. Type dot tie. That's fine. It doesn't need to implement that. Let's just borrow it. Can we not? All right, delete me. Show us what you got. Let's see what's actually happening here. Oh, only one parameter is allowed. Oh, that's not true, is it? Two should be allowed, or more. I forgot that we take arguments. I guess we have to have at least one. The first one has to have a certain type. Or does it? Let's say it doesn't. Okay, get rid of that. The history of computers begins in the early 19th century. One more time. Back to delete me. Okay, that works. Yeah, that's just not expanded. Oh, good. Good, good. In this case, we should not have request T on these anymore. These should have a known type, and they should all be the same. Where's this unit coming from? Found reference unit. With a name called the Jacquard machine. Said after the inventor. All right, let's see where that gets built. Oh, load the file. See, that shouldn't have a type on it like that anymore. Am I putting this in the wrong place? Tests. Mimeograph code gen. Oh, we don't need the type on this. I forgot to remove that. I like looking at the generated code. It just makes it so obvious. Here, and that type goes away. Joseph Marie Jacquard. A fabric pattern manufacturer. Is that for like a loom? And that makes sense because you would have the strings moving up and down at certain intervals, and then the what is it, the shuttlecock going between them. So it would move across, adjust, move across, adjust. And that makes a lot of sense. It's kind of a mechanical computer. Yes. So what I'm using is called Cargo Expand, and you can tell it which test you want it to expand. If you wanted to expand your whole crate, it's got a number of options. So I'm telling it to expand one of my tests
among us
into a file that I happen to put also in the test directory so that my editor can pick it up and it'll run the analysis on that. So I'm just taking delete me and putting it into delete me too. There we go. Oh, thank you for the follow. Let's see. Ralph's Costa. How you doing? Happy Friday. And welcome. Okay. So here's delete me too. Looks good so far. Get rid of that. See, the request type here is a little different. Let's get to the next layer of errors. Fix that for a moment. Oh, you're welcome. You're very welcome. Yeah, look. Now we just have this one issue. Hold on a sec. All right, guys. We got to start wrapping up here in just a moment. Let's find this little string thing. Where's delete me to? Let's say a router. Where's it getting this unit? None router. Option. This should be the return type there. Is it on the functions themselves? String here. I mean, those. That all seems okay. Where? Just search for unit. I'm not fine. No, I don't even see that. Where's it getting unit? I mean, it must be the return type here that's influencing it. This one here. So our wrapper code wraps that. Doesn't do anything to it. It just passes it through. Thank you. Thank you. I think it's Alana's. All right. Well, I think this is probably a place where I have to stop. So we're going to do some rating. Say, who's up today? THM? Okay. We're going to return the favor. We're going to raid. Say, choose Ash Fox or Sodding. Sodding. Pick one. Pick quickly. I must hit a meeting. Ash? All right. Here we go. Well, thanks for hanging out, y'all. And thank you for the raid. I'm going to have to go check out the channel. Does anybody remember? What was it? What was the name again? It was, oh, White Panther. That's right. White Panther rated us. So, all right, y'all. Thanks for hanging out. And we're getting really close to having a router working. This is really exciting. So this will pay off soon. Until next time. Bye-bye.